Welcome back with a smiling face. Links to previous episodes are given in the video description, so don't forget to like, subscribe and share the video. A Heart of Ice and Ash. Episode 9. Chapter 96. Kai POV. We're almost there. We're so close I can taste it. I pull up in front of what seems to be an old abandoned church, in the middle of a small town. Winter better be here, I think grimly. It's the last CO ordinates that we received before they went missing. I almost leap out of the car, Jonathan doing the same. We should just go in, Jonathan mutters, and although I'm tempted, I want to wait for Langan and Damian. They're not far behind and I'd rather have them as backup. The warriors are a little bit behind them. I sidle closer to the doors and sniff. My eyes widen. Winter is in there. I can smell her. My heart begins to thud loudly in my chest. Another car pulls up. It's Damian and Langan, thank God, because I'm having a hell of a time preventing myself from storming inside. I motion for them to follow me. I kick the doors open to the church. He is in there, I'm sure of it, and I'm going to kill him. I pull up at the sight of Winter in a wedding dress, Thomas behind her, wearing a tuxedo of all things. It dawns on me that he's trying to marry her against her will. My fury ignites. I object, I growl, the sound filling the otherwise silent church. There's a priest behind them and he looks petrified. I sniff. He's human. Great, the last thing we need to deal with. Thomas just grins at me. He presses his fangs to Winter's neck, they are gleaming in the darkness of the church, threatening to take her blood. I'm helpless, even as the others shift, ready to take Thomas out at the moment's notice. There's no mark on Winter's neck anymore. Somehow, he has managed to remove it. I'm so angry, I can barely see straight, but I'm holding it together for Winter's sake. She's so pale and I can see a bite mark already on her neck where he has already dug his fangs into her. Winter is giving me a look, her eyes trying to convey something, and my eyes turn black. She's going to do something, I can tell, and my body tenses in preparation. Whatever she's about to do, I can't afford not to take advantage of it. I watch in disbelief as she throws her head back into Thomas's and throws herself down. I don't hesitate. She's given me the opening I so badly needed, and I shift, throwing myself over her body and sending Thomas flying against the altar. I expect him to give up, after all he's clearly outnumbered, but instead he laughs, getting back up and sending smiles our way. Is he that crazy? That was nothing, he sneers and throws himself at me. He's still in his human form, but he's incredibly strong, grabbing hold of me and throwing me across the room, sending pews flying everywhere. Damian's wolf snarls and leaps, Thomas grabbing him by the tail and sending him flying into Jonathan and Langan's wolves, sending them crashing to the ground. This fight isn't going to be easier. I spare a glance at Winter. She's still on the ground and I hope she stays down. It's safer at the moment. I notice the priest has made a dash for it. Thomas begins to shift and I watch in astonishment. His wolf is large, larger than my own. Is this because he's a hybrid? More powerful than even an alpha wolf? I tackle him, his jaws clamping on me as he shakes me back and forth like a rag doll and sends me crashing into the nearby wall. Damian growls, charging him, and I watch as Thomas easily dodges and then turns, swiping Damian across the midsection. He gives a howl and backs away. Langan takes the opportunity to charge and gets thrown into the wall, his back hitting it solidly and his body making a huge thumping noise as he crashes to the floor. Jonathan leaps, landing on Thomas's back, biting furiously, his jaws clamping down on Thomas. Thomas reaches back and bucks him off, sending him to the floor. At this rate, we're never going to win the fight. I never anticipated that he was this strong. He's holding his own against two alphas, for heaven's sake. That in itself is remarkable. Then I hear more snarls coming from the back of me and I know that the warriors have come and shifted. Game on, I think to myself, watching Thomas. You've nowhere to go, you. You're dead meat. For the first time since this fight began I see fear in Thomas's eyes. He clearly hadn't expected me to bring so many reinforcements. Or he had been banking on us not being able to track him. He was that arrogant. I snarl. Winter slowly gets to her feet and moves sideways. I wonder what on earth she's thinking, but thankfully Thomas doesn't appear to notice, all his focus is on me and everyone else. Which means for now, Winter is safe, so long as she doesn't bring any attention to herself. I leap and he swerves. He jumps and takes out two of my men who were attempting to sneak up behind him. They go skidding into some of the other wolves, upending them off their feet. I jump at the same time as Jonathan, both of us landing on him, our jaws clamping down. He howls, jumping and bucking, as I claw at his sides. He manages to twist enough to get both of us off. But there's something strange. I can clearly see the blood trickling down from his various injuries, but there he ailing incredibly fast, right in front of my eyes. No wolf can heal that quick. This is because of his hybrid blood. We're going to have to work together and break his neck or something so that he can't heal. Something that is difficult even at the best of times. Damian and Langan attack, Damian clamping his jaws onto Thomas's leg and bending it until it makes a sickening crack. He's managed to break it and they both dance away. But within moments the damage is undone. Everyone is panting heavily, but Thomas hasn't broken a sweat at all. He even looks like a rogue with his red glowing eyes, even though he doesn't smell like one. I can see Winter moving around, behind the altar, digging around as though she's looking for something. I try not to look too hard, I don't want Thomas to swing his head around and stare at her. She could be coming up with some sort of plan. Whatever it is, I hope she keeps herself safe at the same time. Thomas leaps and meets me in mid-air. We both kick and claw at the same time, falling to the ground and rolling over and over as everyone else tries to chime in and help. I feel his jaws clamp down on my leg and kick, bucking and writhing until he lets go and backs away. Damian and Langan are up, but as my eyes swing to them, I can see that both are covered in various injuries and won't be able to continue much longer. My warriors have fared slightly better and they go dashing for Thomas, but he sends them flying. I barely dodge in time as a wolf almost careens into me. Winter is standing now. I eye her. She's brandishing something in her right hand and it's shimmering in the darkness. I have to hone in, and when I do, my eyes widen. She's found a knife, a silver one at the altar. It could be our only shot, but it would have to be plunged into his heart, and even then, he still had his vampire side to contend with. Throw it, I think to myself, throw it, Winter, She raises her arm and throws the dagger, right at me as I shift back to human form and catch it. Thomas looks at me but seems to be nonplussed, changing back into his own human form. You really think that's going to change anything? He growls and moves, fast but not as fast as me. I hold the dagger up and stab him directly into his chest as his eyes open in disbelief. He lets out a short cry, a gurgled sound, and I let him drop to the ground. I push the dagger even harder, making sure it enters his heart. I'm not taking any chances. The other shifters surround me. I drop him to the floor as his eyes blink up at me. Winter sidles closer. He breathes and I push the dagger in even more as his eyes widen. Then just as suddenly he stares up at the ceiling, his eyes blank. Winter comes to my side and I place my arm over her shoulder, but she shrugs it off. We have to make sure he's dead, she says, sounding slightly hysterical. Before I can stop her, she bends over Thomas's body and grasps hold of the dagger. Before she can pull it out though, his eyes shoot open and his arm raises. He hits her, sending her flying, her head and back hitting the walls of the church as her body slides down to the floor. I growl and reach down, gripping hold of his neck and his body as he weakly tries to stop me. I twist his head until his neck breaks and then continue, until his head is severed from his body. I drop it to the floor as everyone else shifts back to their human form. Clean this up, I say tiredly, and contact the chief of police. He happens to be a shifter. He's going to need to know what went down tonight. Langan nods, helping Damian to sit. Jonathan is already clutching at his ribs and breathing heavily, sitting himself down on some pews. I race over to Winter. She's breathing, thank goodness, but there's blood matted in her hair at the back of her head, and some along the wall. She hit the wall hard. I'm worried not only about her being concussed but that the damage might even be worse than that. I need to get her home. I glance over at my shoulder. Jonathan is definitely in no state to be in the passenger seat. He needs to be lying down with those cracked ribs. Good thing the warriors had several cars. Langan, I say, bending down and picking Winter up. Geez, she's light as a feather. He comes over to me, glancing over his shoulder at Damian. Yes, Alpha Chi. I want you to organize transportation and any medical assistance anyone needs. I'm taking Winter back in my car, I explain gruffly, but Jonathan needs to be lying down. He won't be comfortable sitting up in my passenger seat. Langan nods his understanding. Leave it to me, I'll organize everything, he says confidently. I have no doubts he'll clean this mess up. I gingerly take Winter out to the car, her body flopping limply in my arms like a rag doll. I'm careful to place her in the back of the car, uncaring about the blood that stains the seats. She's far more important. I buckle her in securely and find a blanket to place over her. She's been through something traumatic, and any small thing I can do for her, I'll do without hesitation. I start the car, easing it out onto the road. I could care less. I can steal some scrubs or something from the hospital when we get there. The drive is long, painfully slow as traffic forces me to a standstill several times. Even this late at night, the roads are busy. When we finally make it back to the pack house, I'm almost ready to shout in relief, pulling up right in front of the hospital and getting Winter carefully out of the car. I walk inside, clutching her tightly to me. Please, God, let her be all right. Winter POV. There's so much beeping. It's really frustrating out of me. Why is it so loud? It's piercing my eardrums. I want to shut it off. It's making me so mad, so angry. My eyelids flutter open. I look around me, perplexed. Why am I hooked up to all these machines? There's something in my arm and I pull it out, ignoring the blood that trickles from the wound. It stings a little, but I'm more fascinated by the room. Or disgusted. Disgusted would be more accurate. It's so sterile, so white. I glance down and see that I'm in a gown. I touch it, it's rough. Not soft at all. The blanket is coarse and thick. It's warm at least, I think to myself with a shrug. I'm barefoot and the window blinds are up, showing a large house in the distance and nice grounds. I wonder if I live there? Where am I? I'm so confused. I can't remember how I got here, no matter how much I try. Did someone bring me here? I know I'm in a hospital of some kind, but not where. Everything seems to be jumbled in my mind. The room is empty. Should I ring for a nurse? My head is pounding and it feels like it's going to split open. I grimace. Bathroom business first. I push the machines to the side and climb out of bed. A quick check of the room and I find the bathroom attached, going inside and doing my business. I stare at the face in the mirror. A stranger stares back. I touch my hair and so does the reflection. I purse my lips and so does the mirror. But I don't recognize the face. I can't tell if that's really me. It's like I've never seen this girl before in my life. Who is she? I slowly walk back out of the bathroom. I'm at a complete loss as to what to do. Should I go and find someone maybe? A doctor and a man come into the room. I stare at the man. He's handsome in a rugged masculine way. He has scars across his face, that make him look a little ferocious, but I'm not frightened of him. Instead, a small part of me wants to touch them. I frown. Am I familiar with this man? Because he looks much older than the girl in the mirror. I sit on the bed and stare, wanting to know who they are. The doctor smiles at me. He looks nice. The other man is beaming and folding his arms. I stare at him. Why is he so happy? How are you feeling? The doctor asks me. I think for a moment. My head is pounding and I have a bad headache, I tell him reluctantly. He scribbles in his chart. What is it about doctors and charts? That's to be expected, murmurs the doctor. You hit your head pretty hard. Now from what I can tell there was no concussion, but I want you to be on the lookout for any other side effects. Like what? I ask, frowning. Nausea, vomiting, blurred vision, he lists. I nod and grimace. Big mistake, the pain in my head flares up. The other man speaks. I'll keep a close eye on her, doctor, don't you worry. Why would he be keeping a close eye on me? Then it hits me, he must be a family member. It explains the age gap. Maybe he's my brother. Winter, are you feeling all right? You're being very quiet, the doctor says, concerned. I blink at him, confused. Is he talking to me? Who? I ask. Who's Winter? There's nothing but silence in the room. The man with the scars is chewing his lip and staring at the doctor, who looks incredibly nervous and slightly upset. Your name is Winter, the doctor says worriedly. Do you not know your name? I shake my head. I'm trying not to feel too panicky, but that's easier said than done. The doctor glances at the other man, who's gone pale. What about this man? Asks the doctor, pointing to the other one. I shake my head again. Is he a family member? I ask, turning to the man with scars. Are you my brother? His mouth drops open in disbelief. No, I'm not your brother, he growls, and I stiffen. What's his problem? It was a genuine mistake. He doesn't have to get so angry over it. What's wrong with her? The man glowers at the doctor, who gulps and looks at me with concern in his eyes. I'm going to have to do some tests, the doctor mutters to him, but I suspect that due to the injury she sustained on her head, she's suffering from amnesia. What explodes the man with scars as I nervously jump. How on earth does that happen? How do we fix it? He snarls. You can't just fix it, her memories have to come back on their own, Doc explains. The man does not look happy. Who are you? I ask, and he looks at me, his eyes softening for a moment. I'm your mate, he says quietly, taking hold of my hand. I shiver as tingles run up my hand and arm. It feels nice. The word mate is echoing in my mind, like I should instinctively know what it is. Can she still feel the mate bond? The man asks rather desperately. She can, but she won't know what it is, the doctor says reluctantly. All she'll know is that she's drawn to you for some reason. Hello, I'm sitting right here, I think to myself sarcastically. Not that they seem to notice, having a discussion like I'm not sitting here listening. I like you, I tell the man with scars as he squeezes my hand. You seem nice, I say, yawning and feeling incredibly tired. The man looks taken aback. I like you too, he mutters. He seems a bit out of his depth. I guess we like each other, but it surprises me considering the age gap. But then, does age really matter when you're in love? I want to believe it doesn't. I'll come back in a little while, the doctor says, and get those tests started. The man looks displeased. You said I could take her home today. You still can, just want to confirm everything first, the doctor says, scurrying out of the room as fast as his little legs can carry him. I guess he's afraid of the man with scars. I don't blame him, the man is definitely intimidating, but oh so handsome. I feel like I'm drooling as I stare at him. What's your name? I ask shyly. It's Kai, he says gruffly. Kai. The name sounds familiar. Like I've heard it before. I like it. I like the person attached to the name, I'm certain of it. He squeezes my hand. Winter, we live together, Kai says, his eyes staring directly into mine as I suck in a breath. We share the same bedroom. We both love each other. Do you remember any of that? He asks rather forlorn. I strain but can't remember. I feel miserable as I shake my head again. I'm sorry, I whisper. I don't remember, I add. It's not your fault, he tells me. Don't blame yourself. We'll get through this, he adds firmly. I admire his optimism. There's another sound and voice at the doorway. You're awake, little sis? I look at the doorway. There's another man in the doorway, clutching a teddy bear and smiling. He looks slightly older than me. I frown. Did he just call me his little sister? He pulls me into a hug and I awkwardly pat him on the back, before he hands me the teddy bear. He sits on the other chair next to Kai and smiles. So how are you feeling? He asks breezily. Kai glares at him. She has amnesia, so she doesn't know who any of us are, he barks. The man's face falls. Really, he says in a whisper, pointing at himself, you don't know who I am. I feel bad. No, I don't know you, I'm sorry. I'm Damian, your older brother. Damian. The word rolls off my tongue. It sparks something inside of me, but I can't say what. I hug the teddy bear to my chest and breathe. I'm starting to feel overwhelmed. It's all right, we can get to know each other again later, Damian says hastily. I give him a tentative smile. The doctor reappears and I shrink back. Kai holds onto me, running his fingers down my arm. It's soothing and relaxes me. It helps me to calm down. I just checked the X-ray and there was some damage to her skull. It's very minor and will heal itself, seeing as she's a shifter, but it means the amnesia is real. I can't say how long it will be until Winter gets her memories back. Kai looks disappointed. I'm disappointed too. Now what am I meant to do? Just take everyone's word for it when they tell me who they are and how they are related to me? When can I take her home? Asks Kai and I stiffen. You can take her now if you want. But I need to check up on her in a few days, the doctor warns. Kai nods his head. Winter, Kai says softly as I look at him, fear in my eyes. How about we get you some clothes and then I can take you back home to rest? I'm not sure, but the doctor seems to trust him, so I guess I will as well. I obediently let him help me out of the bed and the doctor hands me some clothes. They look new. I don't bother to ask, going into the bathroom and slowly getting myself changed. When I come back, Damian is gone and it's just Kai standing there. Where's Damian? He went back already, Kai answers. We didn't want to overwhelm you. He hands me the teddy bear and I clutch it to my chest. Kai puts a hand on my back and begins to lead me out of the hospital. We go through the main doors and walk outside. The sun is bright, warm, my eyes water at the brightness of it. The sky is a beautiful clear blue with fluffy clouds in the sky. The grass looks soft and lush, a bright green against the pathways. It's a perfect day and I breathe in the smell of pine and dirt appreciatively. He holds my hand and I let him guide me towards the large house in the distance. Kai, I say quietly as we walk, I don't think I want to stay in the same bed as you, until I have my memories back. I flinch. Is he going to get mad and hurt me? He looks hurt instead. I can understand that, he admits, and I let out a giant whoosh of relief, but I'm at least going to put you in an adjoining room instead. That's as far as I'm willing to compromise. I think about that. It seems fair enough. He is compromising considering we apparently share a bed and bedroom. Thank you, I tell him shyly. We enter the large house and he leads me upstairs. We bypass a few bedrooms and then he stops showing me one. This is our room, he explains as I look around, seeing nothing to spark a memory. He opens another door and motions me inside. It's a pretty basic room, but it's nice and next to where he's apparently going to be sleeping. I sit on the bed. Lie down, Kai tells me, and I spread out on the bed. He places the covers on me. I snuggle into the bed. It feels so damn comfortable compared to the hospital one. He pulls back a loose strand of hair that's in my face and kisses my forehead. Try and go to sleep, he murmurs. You need to rest and recover. How did I end up in the hospital? I ask curiously. He hesitates. We can discuss that later. I sigh but nod. My eyes begin to flutter closed. They feel heavy now and I feel exhausted. I hug my teddy bear to my chest and start to fall asleep. The last thing I hear before darkness surrounds me is Kai's voice. Damn him for causing this. Jonathan POV, you mean she has no memories of us at all? I ask in disbelief, the others hanging onto my every words as we crowd around in the study. Kai looks at me angrily but I don't care. How does Winter manage to lose her memories? I didn't think her injuries had been that serious. Now I feel none. Kai says heavily. She doesn't remember me, her brother or any of you guys, he adds, indicating myself and Langdon. I scowl at him. For how long? I ask irritably. It could be days, it could be months before she gets her memories back. Kai shoots back. We can't force her to try and remember. I don't have months though. I sigh. Damian understands the reason for my angst and shoots me a sympathetic look, but I don't want his sympathy. So what are we supposed to do in the meantime? I ask and Kai looks frustrated. We just encourage her to remember. Remind her of things she likes and what we've done together. Well, that's not helpful. I don't exactly want to remind her of her past. Damian grumbles. It's not exactly something that's going to make her happy, he adds, and I know his reasoning. After all, he more than anyone, well maybe except his father, bullied Winter relentlessly at school and at home. I don't blame him for not wanting to remind Winter of that. I don't think we should mention her father either, I shoot out irritably, and Damian gives a small nod, looking glum. So we tell her about all the good things, Langdon points out, arms folded across his chest. All the little things. I know she likes purple flowers, for instance, roses in particular. Kai looked thoughtful. I can remind her of the first date we had together. Oh, and what about when you guys went for a run for the first time? Langdon says to Kai eagerly. Kai nods furiously. Well, I feel left out. There's no fond memories that Winter's going to have of me. Rejecting her at first sight wouldn't exactly make for a memorable moment. It would just leave a sour taste in her mouth. My heart feels sad. I really wanted to show her how much I've changed, for the better, and instead she's lost all memory of me. The irony. I guess it's karma coming back to bite me. It's the least of what I deserve. Besides, who am I kidding? Winter's never going to give me a second chance. Not when she has a mate like Kai. I didn't stand a chance of trying to persuade her to give me a shot. Besides, Kai seems to genuinely love her. For who she is, and every time he glances at her, I can see the love in his eyes for her. I want that. I've given up on thinking I never want a mate, now I see just how special it is. Even Langdon and Damian make a really cute couple and can't seem to keep their hands off of each other. It's really adorable. The only memory she has really of me, besides being here, is me rejecting her, I say softly, meeting Kai's eyes. I'd rather she not remember it. She's going to want to know who you are, points out Kai gruffly. I look him directly in the eyes. I plan on avoiding her until I leave tomorrow. He looks surprised. Why avoid her? Even if you're just friends. He trails off. I take a deep breath and steel myself because it hurts too much to be near her and not touch her, I say honestly as Kai looks taken aback. Jonathan, Damian says softly, you rejected Winter, remember? I know, I answer, and Kai, I wouldn't dream of trying to take her from you. But seeing her with you, just reminds me of what I don't have and what I let slip through my fingers. It's unbearable, I choke out. I understand, Kai assures me. I would feel the same way in your shoes. But where are you going when you leave? Back to your pack, or will you continue to travel? I think about it. Mother's probably missing me like crazy by now, and to be fair, I miss my pack and the responsibilities that go with it. I've managed to do what I set out to do, and that's save Winter. Now it's time I go back, and maybe, if I'm lucky, I'll even find a second chance mate like Winter has. I stop, feeling choked up. I lean forward and gently kiss her on the forehead, watching her eyelids flutter and then settle. I stand up and quietly walk towards the doorway, my shoulders slumped in defeat. I can't help looking over my shoulder to get one last glimpse of her, before I gently close the door behind me, leaving Winter to her sleep. Kai meets me at the head of the stairs. I wonder how much of that he overheard. But he says nothing. Instead, he gives me a small smile and walks me back down towards the study. It's empty. Damian and Langan have obviously left to do something else. Kai closes the door behind him. Listen, he says firmly, you did me and Winter a great service coming to her rescue and to warn her about the danger. Is there anything we can do for you? Name it and I'll arrange it, he breathes. I can hear the gratefulness in his voice. I cringe. There's nothing I want from him. Well, almost nothing. An idea sparks in my mind. Actually, maybe we can do each other a favor, I say with a smile, leaning back in the chair. How does a treaty between our two packs sound? I coax. He's silent for a moment and I wonder if I've overstepped my bounds. But then he stares directly at me, a small smile playing on his face. I would be honored to sign a treaty with your pack. If anything should happen, I am more than happy to offer my aid. Alpha Jonathan, he breathes. Can we organize it before the morning? I inquire. I don't want to delay my plans. Not after officially saying goodbye to Winter. It would hurt too much to stay here and have to watch her with Kai. I really need to get out of here. I can organize it within the hour, Kai answers with a grin, pulling out a bottle of bourbon from his desk. He offers me a sip, but I shake my head. I've never liked the taste of bourbon. He takes a swig in front of me and then his eyes glaze over. Right, I've got a lawyer, a witness, and Langan coming back to the study, he says, fixing his gaze on me, not to mention a notary. I told you I'd organize it quickly, he says proudly, and despite myself I'm impressed. He's done it a lot quicker than I'd anticipated. This time when he offers the bourbon I take a small sip, trying not to splutter as it burns my throat going down. I hastily give it back to him. To a treaty between our packs, Kai cheers and I smile and nod. To the treaty between our packs, I say back, grabbing the bottle and drinking from it. This time it goes down a lot easier. Within the hour the treaty is signed and I carefully place it in a bag that Kai has produced for me, along with a small pile of clothes. I can send you in a car with a small group of warriors, Kai says to me. It would really ease my mind to know you're not traveling back alone. I move my head. It sounds a lot better than traveling back on my own, and quite frankly a car would be absolutely luxury as the weather is getting cold and quite wet. Can I leave now? I ask quietly, and he hesitated then nods. I'll arrange it. Is there any reason you want to leave so badly? I hate goodbyes, I say calmly, and it's the truth. Within minutes, I'm in a car heading back towards my pack house. Goodbye Damian, Langan, and Winter, I think to myself a little sadly. There was no telling if I would ever see any of them again. Damian POV, I sigh. I'm not in a great mood. Jonathan up and left without saying goodbye to me or Langan. I've been the one traveling with him for months, for Christ's sake. I guess he's not good at goodbyes. Besides, maybe it was hurting him to be so close to Winter, knowing that he has no chance with her anymore. Who knows? Langan can sense my mood. Something the matter? He asks, and I turn to look, taking in his folded arms across his chest. I don't know why, but I suddenly explode. All the tension I'm feeling, the awkwardness, and the uncertainty comes to the surface. Is something wrong? I vent. What about all of it? Jonathan's gone, Winter's got amnesia, I say bitterly, which is ironic because now she has no idea who I am and this relationship, I mutter, gesturing towards each other. I don't even know where to start with that. Langan frowns. He's so calm, it's unnerving. What do you want in the relationship? He asks, cool as a cucumber. Because we haven't really discussed what either of us want. Of course we haven't. We've been a little preoccupied with the whole Thomas danger thing, and now Winter has amnesia. The last thing that's been on my mind is this whole mate bond thing with Langan. But we do have to talk, and I guess now is as good a time as any. I don't know, I tell him, almost shouting, because you haven't told me either way whether you want me or not. You just don't give me any idea either way. It's infuriating, I add. His eyes darken. So what you're saying, he says very quietly, his body tensing up, is that it all hinges on me and has nothing to do with you. That you don't get a say at all. That's not what I mean, I want to scream. Instead I flop down on the bed and glare at him. What I'm saying is you've given me no indications on whether you want to accept me as your mate, I say bitterly. He raises an eyebrow. It works both ways, he points out. I don't know what it is you're wanting either. I blurted out, blushing profusely. I want to stay with you. Awkward silence. I can't even look up at him anymore. My heart starts beating loudly in my chest. He doesn't move from the doorway. Tears well in the corner of my eyes. He doesn't want me. That's why he's being so quiet and stiff. He can't accept the mate bond because we're both men. I'm foolish for even thinking he would want me. I brace myself for the rejection I'm sure he's about to utter, but it never comes. You foolish, growls Langan, and I look up, blinking furiously. Did he just call me a foolish? What? I've been waiting for you to tell me that, because I didn't want to pressure you, he growls. I can feel myself lighting up. You mean? I ask tentatively. God, I don't even recognize myself. Where is the cool, collected and calm Damian gone? Get a grip, you moron, I think to myself furiously. I mean, I want you, he growls, as my mate. I don't want anyone else, so help me God. It's you. He saunters over, reaches out, and grasps my chin with his hand, his other one wiping the tears away as I look at him feeling ashamed. He bends his head down and presses his lips against mine, and it's heaven. They're coarse and rough, his hand gripping the back of my neck possessively as he plunders my mouth, forcing my lips open and caressing my tongue. I moan out loud, my own lips mashing hard against him. I can feel my arousal, but I don't care. He tastes so good, so delectable, that I don't want to stop kissing him, but eventually the both of us have to pull back and draw in oxygen. He's panting heavily, I see with satisfaction. I'm doing the same though. His eyes are dark and it's clear his wolf is close to the surface. He pushes me down onto the bed without warning. When I go to help, he shakes his head and I lie still, eager to feel his flesh against mine. His hands touch and caress my skin as I shudder, the feeling intense, pleasure coming over me in waves. He looks like he's barely holding on to his control. I could stop him, but my body is feeling too much pleasure to want to, and I'm eager to feel him as well, even if he's preventing me from doing that right now. I want you inside me, I whisper, placing my head down. Just breathe, he whispers, and then slowly start. Next time will be even better, he promises, his eyes dark as he stares at me with wish in his eyes. I swallow. This was pretty fantastic, I can't really see how it could be any better. My whole body tenses at the thought of again with him. Still want to be mates? Langan teases and I give him a playful shove. Yes, I growl, taking hold of his face and giving him a quick peck on the lips. We both glance at the bed and the rumpled sheets. I think we might need to remake the bed, I say quietly as he grins. He motions towards the bathroom. How about you go get cleaned up and I organize fresh bedding, he suggests. If you take too long, I'll be joining you in the shower, he jokes. I need to get clean too. I don't know whether that's a promise or a threat, and I don't care either way. I'm already drooling at the thought of Langan showering with me and anything else that might happen. I thought I would be too sore to go again, but my body is already craving another round. I wonder if shifter blood means that certain parts of you still heal regardless. It's an interesting theory. I get up and he gives me a smack. I turn to glare at him, and he just raises his eyebrows at me. I laugh and shake my head, heading to the bathroom and turning the water in the shower on. As I step beneath the water, part of me, a small part of me, hopes that Langan will come and join me, even if I have to stand in here for an hour before he decides to. Langan's mate certainly seems to have its perks. Winter POV. I wake up and stretch, staring out the window. It looks like a nice day outside, the sun is shining, there's big puffy clouds chasing each other across the deep blue sky, and I can see trees swaying in the wind. But I'm hesitant to go downstairs on my own. The man, Kai, claims to be my mate, but I can't remember anything. I know I'm a shifter, but other than that, everything is a blank. I feel the back of my head, where the stitches are, and frown. My hair is all matted with dried blood. The first thing I want to do is shower, but where are my clothes? I remember that Kai placed me in an adjoining room to what was supposedly ours and tiptoe towards it. With any luck he wouldn't be in there. Luck was on my side. I spot a dresser and rifle through it, grabbing sweatpants and a shirt. I head into the bathroom and start the shower, my eyes closing in bliss as the water cascades down on me. It's relaxing and I inhale the steam greedily. The water is hot, just the way I like it, and I could easily spend forever in here, if it means avoiding everyone downstairs. Winter, honey, you know it's not so bad. Your memory will come back. Who are you? You're Wolf Sabriel. I know you probably don't remember me, but maybe I can show you a memory or two of us. Would you like that? I don't know. It won't hurt, I promise, sweetling. I just want to show you a memory of us and Kai. Alright then, I guess it can't hurt. I'm curious to see. For a moment there's silence and I lean against the shower tiles, closing my eyes and waiting. Soon there's images flooding my mind. I can see myself and I'm shifting, my bones cracking and adjusting. We're beautiful, I think to myself, taking in my wolf form. The man, Alpha Kai, is there with me and I can't stop staring at him as he too begins to shift, his wolf a large beautiful black one, called Storm. We take off running into the forest, lightly nipping each other, Sabriel teasing Storm and playfully fighting with him as their wolf side takes over. There's no destination in mind, just the sheer pleasure of running, watching the trees and the scenery pass by in a blur, dodging over branches and debris, our paws thudding lightly on the ground. We're out there for hours, having fun, letting our wolves run free. It's so freeing. We make it back to the grounds and I shift back, placing my clothes on while Kai does the same. There's a wide smile on my face, even though I'm exhausted from the run. Kai is beaming at me, even as he shrugs into his clothes. We embrace and he kisses the top of my head as I lean into him. If that was a memory, then it was a pleasant one. Even the feelings associated with it, the adrenaline, the carefree attitude and everything else flashed through my mind. Sabriel had done well in showing me a memory. Alpha Kai seems far less intimidating to me now. I turn the shower off and wrap a towel around me, heading out to the bedroom and stop in my tracks. I wasn't expecting to see Kai in the bedroom and I can't help but tighten the towel around my body nervously, blushing profusely. I came to check up on you, he says to me quietly, not making a move to come any closer. I wonder if he can sense my nervousness. How are you feeling? He adds. Tired, I admit sheepishly, even though I've slept a lot, it just doesn't seem to make much of a difference. He frowns at that and looks a little concerned. I feel bad. I hadn't meant to worry him. Do you think you might want to visit a doctor at the hospital? He asks kindly. I shake my head. I've had enough of hospitals. The thought comes out of nowhere and I'm puzzled. How many times have I ended up in the hospital, to feel that way? I know exactly how to shift into my wolf form. Once I'm done, I howl at Kai, who hastily changes. I don't even wait for him, I head straight out to the forest, my paws thudding across the ground. My wolf is large and I frown. Something about the size of my wolf strikes a chord in me, but I can't remember why. But I'm not much smaller than Kai's wolf and I easily keep up with him when he dashes ahead of me. We play, like wolves do. Nipping at each other, running as fast as we can, tracking down wild animals and watching them run when they pick up our scent. We drink from a nearby lake and play fight with each other. It's bliss. For a while I'm able to forget that I've lost my memory, completely absorbed in this run and spending hours with my supposed mate by my side. In fact, I'm having such a good time that time flies by and before I know it, we're reluctantly heading back towards the grounds. I shift, feeling sulky. I really hadn't wanted to come back. Slowly, I begin to put my clothes back on. Then Kai shifts and my mouth goes dry. He's the very image of masculinity and I can't stop myself from staring at his abdomen and chest as he starts to put his clothes on. Winter, he says gruffly, you keep looking at me like that and I'm going to drag you to the bedroom and have my way with you, he promises, and I blush, biting my lip and looking away as he chuckles. All right, you can look now, he says, and I glance back over, seeing amusement on my mate's face. He saunters over. I've been wanting to do this for quite some time, he murmurs, his face now inches from mine as I stand there trembling. He bends down and captures my lips with his, gently pressing them against mine as I gasp in shock. His tongue slowly dives into my mouth and caresses mine. I moan, my hands holding onto his shoulders to keep myself upright as he intensifies the kiss. My whole body feels like it's on fire. Is this what it feels like to touch your mate? His hand twines itself in my hair, keeping me firmly pressed against him. My eyes close as I let myself let the sparks and tingles spread throughout my body. His other hand begins to trail down the side of me, sliding underneath my sweater so that I feel his bare hand against my flesh. It burns, but not in a bad way, rather in a delicious sizzling sort of way. My own hands clutch at him, holding tightly onto his sweatshirt. I've completely forgotten about where we are, let alone who might be watching, completely lost in the moment. Finally, gasping for breath, I pull back, seeing Kai's eyes have turned black. His wolf is close to the surface, or for all I know I was kissing his wolf. His lips curl up in a wicked grin. There's plenty more where that came from, he promises me, and I gulp. Maybe I should let him drag me back to the bedroom, I think to myself hazily. Then I notice his hands are keeping my legs from buckling and keeping me upright. I have a request for you, he says, looking down and staring directly into my eyes, something I think you'll enjoy and might help with your memory. Now I'm intrigued. I move my head to the side. What is it you want me to do? He smiles. I want to take you out on a date, he says. A date, I murmur. What kind of date? I want to take you to the same place that I took you for our first date, he says with a smile. All you have to do is get yourself dressed up tonight and I'll take care of the rest. Kai POV, I'm nervous. I can't believe it. All this time I've spent with Winter and I can't quite stop fidgeting with my hands. I get dressed in a separate room, so that she doesn't feel afraid of me, spending time smoothing my hair back and making myself look as presentable as possible. I knock on the door gently and wait for her to call me in. Whatever you do, don't mess it up. She's vulnerable, remember. Don't you think I know that, Storm? I know she's vulnerable. She's got amnesia, for heaven's sake. Well then, treat her gently, like fragile china. I'm not going to treat her like she's going to break. She's stronger than you think she is. Don't say I didn't warn you. Enough, Storm. Come in, she calls in that husky, beautiful voice of hers. I open the door and walk in, my mouth falling open. God, she's beautiful. She has no idea just how much of an effect she's having on me. Her smile, those pearly white teeth of hers. Her slim legs clad in leggings. She's wearing a dressy blouse and the leather jacket I got for her. Her hair cascades down her shoulders in waves. She's stunning, and for a moment I'm speechless. Do I look okay? She asks me nervously. I gulp. She more than looks okay. You look beautiful, I breathe, bending down and giving her a quick peck on the cheek. I'm not about to push it right now and try and get a long kiss, although I have to say it's taking a hell of a lot of restraint. Where are we going? She asks curious, and I smile and shake my head. It's a surprise, I remind her, and she pouts at me. It's adorable, shaking her head so that her hair flies over her shoulder. I go to take hold of her hand and she flinches. Sorry, I apologize. I guess she's still not too sure about me. It stings a little bit, but I can't exactly blame her. I mean, who knows how I would act if I didn't have all my memories. No, I'm sorry, she says softly, and takes hold of my hand, sparks flying between us. I didn't mean to. No harm done, I say with a friendly smile and begin to tug her out of the room. She giggles as we descend the stairs, laughing at my excitement. You'll love it, I promise her, helping her into the passenger seat of the car. She gives a small nod, buckling up her seatbelt and patiently waiting for me to get into the driver's side. I start the engine and she reaches over to change the music, to country of all things. I know she likes that type of music and I'm willing to leave her to listen to it. She stares out the window, watching the scenery go by. She fidgets with both hands and I know she's nervous. I just don't know if she's nervous of me or of going out in the first place. Soon, we've started our way into town and her eyes light up with excitement as I maneuver through the streets, parking in front of a club which I hope will be very familiar to Winter. The neon sign reads Club 666, the same one I brought her to on our first date and the one that I am the proud owner of. I help her out of her seat as she stands and grips my hand tightly, tucking herself in under my shoulder. A club, she says anxiously. Are you sure this is a good idea? I promise you'll like it. If you don't, we can just go home, I suggest, and that seems to cheer her up slightly. I walk her down towards the line that's all the way up the street. It's great to see how many people are desperate to get into the club. I confidently head towards the front of the line, where my regular bouncer, Leo, is. Leo, I greet him and Winter looks at him, biting her lip. Do I know you? She asks him tentatively. You look a little familiar. Success. She remembered something. I want to fist pump the air. Leo looks bemused. We met the last time you were here, Princess, he says charmingly. I glower at him. No one calls Winter Princess but me. He just grins, recognizing that he's pushed my buttons. Good thing he's an excellent employee. Oh, is all Winter says with a puzzled expression. Hey, what's going on? This guy's pushing his way in, you're not going to just let him through, are you? We've been waiting for ages, a young teenager shouts from behind us, sounding extremely pissed. Leo just shrugs. I'm not telling the owner he can't get into his own club. You do it if you're game enough, he says calmly, and the boy falls silent. Okay, that's enough, goodbye Storm. I cut Storm off and put up a block before he can tell me anything else. Damn that mutt. Bros indeed. Can you order me a Dr. Pepper again, please? Winter asks, standing up and looking slightly unsteady on her feet. I just need to go to the bathroom. Do you want me to walk you over there? I ask, glancing at the bathrooms which are in a hallway off the dance floor. She shakes her head. I'll be fine. I just need to freshen up a little, she says weakly. I'm not so sure, but she starts to walk off anyway, and I keep a close eye on her to make sure she makes it into the bathroom. Only then do I flag down a waitress and order Winter and myself a cool drink. I'd give anything for a nice refreshing beer right now, but seeing as Winter can't drink, I'm not going to either. I'm not that. Give me some credit at least. The drinks come. Still no sign of Winter. I'm concerned she might be sick in the bathroom. My fingers drum along the tabletop as I sip at my Coke. I don't want to embarrass her by trying to get in or getting security to check on her. I take a glance at my watch. It's only been 5 minutes, I'm clearly getting carried away. I settle back in my seat and sip my drink, watching the dancers on the dance floor. A drunken man is shouting obscenities at the bartender and I hover, wondering if I should go investigate, and possibly step in. He hasn't threatened violence, but as I listen, it's clear that the bartender has cut the man off from drinking, rightfully so. It's standard policy and I'm appreciative that he's following it. The security team step in, so I don't have to, and I watch as the man is dragged away, kicking and yelling all sorts of things, before his voice fades away as he's dragged outside. The bartender looks relieved. I don't blame him. No one wants to have to deal with that crap, and bartenders have to on a daily basis. How hard is it to stop drinking when it's clear you've had enough? Too hard for some people apparently. Where is Winter? I glance at my watch and begin to get concerned. It's been a little while now. What do I do? I can't exactly push into the ladies' room myself. Hell no, not even as the owner. There had to be a member of security who was female who could check on her for me. I turn my head to look and sigh. They're all outside still. I turn back and almost have a heart attack. Winter is standing there, pale, her eyes red and puffy. I hadn't even heard her approach, let alone smelled her scent, but there was so many people in the club it would have been easy to miss it. Are you all right? I ask, leaning over to grasp her hand. God, they're so cold and clammy. I try to warm them with my own. There's a tremulous smile on Winter's face. She swallows and then speaks. I'm not feeling the best, is it okay if we just go home? If she's not feeling well, then of course we're going home. That's not even a question. I get up hurriedly. Let's go, I say crisply and begin to drag her behind me out of the club. She feels so cold. It's odd. I didn't mean to ruin anything, she says in a whisper. You haven't, I say firmly. I had a great time tonight and there'll be other nights as well. She gives me a small smile and nods. I help her into the car and place the heater on for warmth. She curls up in the seat and rests her head against the window, watching everything pass by. By the time we make it back to the pack house, she's fallen firmly asleep. I frown. She must be sick or something. I gently gather her up and cradle her to my chest, walking up towards the bedroom. I debate whether to put her in a separate room again, but she's cold and I figure my body heat might help. I place her in the bed and take my shirt off, climbing in beside her, pulling her up against me as she sleeps and resting my head on her shoulder. This is where she belongs, where she's meant to be. I close my eyes. For now, I would have to be content with her company and pray that her memories come back soon. Winter POV. I can see the crestfallen look on Kai's face when I asked to go home. But what was I supposed to tell him? That when I went into the bathroom, my eyes, for a moment, looked like they were glowing red. That it was enough to upset me. It also meant I remembered Thomas and everything that went on. It's like my memories are slowly flooding back, but I can still feel Thomas's hands on me, see his fangs out of his mouth and even feel the pain as his fangs pierced my skin. Everything was so vivid, it was like I was right back there again. I'm trying to tell myself the glowing red eyes were just a trick of the light, that it was a residue of the memories that came flooding back, but part of me isn't so sure. We get into the car, and I feel exhausted and drained. No matter how much sleep I get lately, it never seems to be enough. I'm always tired. I wonder if it's because my blood got drained. Maybe I don't have enough iron in my blood and need to get supplements? I watch the scenery go by and feel myself drifting off. I'm barely aware of Kai picking me up and carrying me to the bedroom, but I can feel him as he cuddles close to my. I can hear his heartbeat beating its slow, even rhythm as he pulls me tightly against him. It feels nice. I stop shivering, his body heat helping to keep me warm underneath the blankets. Soon, instead of being drowsy, I'm asleep and dreaming. I'm running. It's dark and the moon is shining overhead. I'm fast. Faster than I've ever been in my whole life, running as though my life depends on it. But it's not fast enough. Even as I flee from danger, it finds me. His voice drifts towards me through the air as I shudder. Winter, he calls, and although it's quite, barely above a whisper, I hear it, my whole body stilling in fear. Winter, he hisses, and I turn, desperately trying to find the source of the noise, my heart thumping wildly in my chest. Where was Kai? Or Damian or Langan? Why am I all alone? Has he killed them all? But I thought he was dead, how is he here? It wasn't possible. It can't be. You can't escape me, comes the whisper again as I force my body to begin moving, crashing through overhanging branches and leaping over debris. For some reason I'm in human form and I don't know why. Why haven't I shifted to my wolf form? When I try though I find I can't. But I can run really fast. Faster than a normal human. Leave me alone, I scream hysterically. My feet are bare and covered in scratches, blood flowing from several cuts. It has a metallic smell that makes my nose crinkle. It smells strong. Winter, he calls, and I stop, seeing him up ahead. It's like living a nightmare. He's standing in front of me, a wicked grin on his face, his arms held out in surrender. You can't escape me, he says again, his voice chilling. He's so pale, so stiff. His body is covered in all sorts of injuries and it's weird that they haven't healed. I'm trying to remind myself this is a nightmare, but it seems so real. So real. You're dead, I say, my voice shaky. We killed you. He laughs, throwing back his head. But did you really? He asks, a smile on his face, an expression of amusement as well. My throat goes dry. I'm starting to second guess everything. But we had killed Thomas, hadn't we? Nobody could go back from what we'd done to him. Why are you here? I ask shakily. His grin grows wider. I'm here to see my handiwork, he says, and I frown. What on earth did he mean by that? Did you think you would really escape me, Winter? He asks, sounding bewildered that I would just let you go without a fight. Why are you so obsessed with me? I shout across at him, the wind howling in the distance. What did I do to make you want me so badly? You didn't do anything special, I've just always loved you, he says. My heart sinks. He's like a paranoid stalker. Was he going to stalk me in my dreams as well now? Give me nightmares that won't go away? Please, just let me go, Thomas, I beg him, tears trailing down my cheeks. You have to let me go. I can't, he rasps, his eyes glowing red in the darkness, his body moving closer. My own body is stiff, paralyzed with fear. No matter how hard I try, I cannot get my limbs to move. He reaches out and touches a strand of my hair as I make a gurgling sound. Now my own voice has betrayed me. You're so beautiful, he murmurs, his fingers trailing down my face, stopping at my neck. Please, I manage to whimper, but it doesn't stop him. You'll thank me one day, he whispers. You were supposed to be mine forever. I belong to Kai. I want to shout at him, but my mouth won't move now. Instead, I'm forced to feel his clammy hands on my skin as he grabs hold of my hand and presses it against his lips. Yuck! His lips are freezing cold. His eyes are glinting with triumph. My whole body is trembling. He can sense my fear and it makes him smile at me, his eyes staring directly into mine. They're so bright, so vivid. He stares at me, his head moved to the side. One more, for old time's sake, he mutters, and before I can even comprehend what it is he's getting at, he bends his head down and presses his lips against mine, forcing a kiss on me. My stomach is roiling and there's bile rising up in my throat. I'm going to puke, but he stops, places a hand against my chest and smiles. I gave you a gift, he murmurs, and then in a puff of smoke he's gone, just like that. My mouth opens to scream and suddenly, I burst awake. I press a hand to my lips, trembling. The dream, or rather nightmare, had been so real. So vivid. Like I had been there and Thomas really was alive. I sit up, careful not to jostle Kai, who's sleeping peacefully in the bed. I don't want to wake him, but right now I can't sleep either. I crawl out and make my way downstairs and into the kitchen. Whenever I was little, my mother would make me some warm milk when I had trouble sleeping. Right now I wanted that comfort, and luckily, the kitchen was empty. Girl, that was some nightmare. Gave me the heebie-jeebies. Me too, Sabriel. What do you think it means? It means nothing. He's dead. We killed him. You were just having a nightmare. It felt real. I know, but it was just a nightmare. Trust me, Winter. He's gone. He can't hurt you anymore. Maybe you should talk to Kai about the nightmare? I don't want to disturb him with something like this. It's just a nightmare, I'll get over it. Well, it might help, but it's your decision. I'll see, Sabriel. I place the milk in the saucepan and put it over the burner on the stove. I stir it constantly, humming under my breath. With luck this will make me sleepy again. I pull it off the stove and place it in a mug, sitting at the table and sipping away. Ah, the stuff warms my throat and makes my belly feel pleasantly warm. This is what I needed. My hands cup the mug tightly. My stomach growls lightly like it's hungry. But it's the early hours of the morning and to be honest I'm still tired. I focus on drinking, trying to reassure myself enough to go back upstairs and back to bed. But the nightmare stays fresh in my mind. I can still feel Thomas's clammy hands and his freezing cold lips on mine. I shudder. I finish the milk and reluctantly place the mug in the sink. Maybe if I cuddle up to Kai again, my body will relax and go to sleep. It's worth a shot. I walk upstairs, my heart thumping in my chest. I can't believe I let a nightmare scare me this much. God, I'm such a coward. I make my way into the bedroom and Kai is sitting on the bed, looking all disheveled as my throat goes dry. He glares at me. Oh, I guess I'm in trouble, but for what? Do you have any idea how panicked I felt when you weren't in the bed next to me? He hisses. I gulp. That thought hadn't even crossed my mind. Maybe I should have woken him up to let him know where I was going. Anything could have happened to you, he continues to vent. You could have been out for a run and attacked by rogues. You could have hurt yourself and fallen down the stairs. You could have been kidnapped again, he almost shouts, and I flinch, cringing at his words. He was really pissed. Not that I blamed him. After Thomas took me, Kai no doubt was having trouble keeping me out of his sight. I'm sorry, I apologize softly, and he huffs, running a hand through his messy hair. He's not wearing a shirt and my eyes stare at his chest appreciatively. Where did you go? He asks finally, making an effort to keep his voice calm. His eyes stare directly at me and I swallow nervously. I went down to the kitchen for some warm milk, I answer quietly, fidgeting with my hands. He exhales. Why didn't you wake me up? I would have come with you, he says, annoyed. I flush. I didn't want to disturb you. Besides, I was only going to the kitchen downstairs, I explained. He nods. Couldn't sleep? He asks, and my heart skips a beat. He didn't know the heart of it. A little, I admit. I'm tired now though. He sighs. He pats the bed. Come here, let's get you tucked in, he says, and I come over, letting him place me into the bed and tucking me under the bed covers. I'm going to go do some training, he mutters. If you feel the need to get up, then mind link me please, he says with a grimace. I give him a nod. He bends down and gives me a peck on the forehead. Get some rest, he says, walking towards the doorway and eyeing me sternly. I order you to, he adds, and then leaves. I close my eyes in relief. Now I could try and get some sleep, but there was something that wouldn't leave my mind. Something that was very concerning to me. In the dream, Thomas had mentioned he'd given me some sort of gift. I knew it was just a nightmare, but that wouldn't stop going through my mind. I can't help wondering what Thomas had meant by gift. From my memories, he hadn't given me anything, not that I remembered. It was just a nightmare, I remind myself. It didn't mean anything. Stop letting it mess with your head. Thomas is dead. There is no gift. The nightmare was just that. A nightmare. It wasn't real. There was nothing real about it. It's just something that you need to move forward from. At least that's what I was trying to tell myself. But another small part of me wonders if there was something to the nightmare, some small part of it in my subconscious that was trying to tell me something, or warn me. Either way, the nightmare was going to stick in my mind for now and the foreseeable future, and I was going to have a hell of a time trying to forget about it. Langan POV: life's been different with my new mate. Sometimes it's hard to know what he's thinking, but we get along well and well, the chemistry is definitely there. I blush just thinking about how responsive my mate is to being touched itself. God, his little cries turn me on just thinking about doing again. Damian comes out of the bathroom and looks pensive. I know he's worried about winter and this damn amnesia. Especially since he's been traveling for so long to find her and now he's lost his chance to reminisce with her. I also know he's still beating himself up for everything he's done to her in the past. To be fair, he'd done a lot of horrible things to poor Winter while she was growing up. But I know it was also due to his father and Damian's fear of him. What's wrong? I ask softly as he sits on the bed frowning. I move behind him and begin to knead the muscles in his shoulders and the back of his neck in a soothing circular massaging motion. For a moment there's nothing but silence and his heavy breathing. I want to spend quality time with Winter. He says, disappointed. That's a bit difficult while her memories are mainly gone, I point out and hear his exhale. I know. Do you think she'll forgive me again? He asks, putting his hands up and stopping me from continuing the massage, his eyes staring beseechingly at me. Do you think she'll be upset when she remembers what I've done? I have to pause and think. It was difficult to say one way or the other. But Winter's a kind, compassionate, caring girl. I couldn't fathom that she would hold a grudge against her brother, not when she'd already forgiven him once. But I could also understand why my mate was so concerned. I think you'll find that she forgives you, I say slowly. After all, she forgave you before, so what's to stop her doing it again? That makes him smile slightly. But the things I did. Langdon, he says thickly, and I hold a hand up, stopping him with a shake of my head. What you did is in the past. It's what you do now and how you treat her that matters now. He falls silent, brooding. I can't help but stroke his hair and he lets me. It feels so soft and silky, running through my fingers. I've noticed his breathing has hitched again and smile knowingly. I remove my hands and sit across from him, staring at him challengingly. It's time, I tell him firmly as he looks at me confused. I need to know that you want this relationship and this mate bond. I know we've had X, but that doesn't mean anything if you're thinking about walking away now. He looks puzzled. Why would I walk away? You tell me, I shoot back. Since we've had X, you've been quiet, depressed and detached. It's like you can't hear me half the time, I say, trying not to sound like I'm sulking. I feel like a pouting teenage boy though. Oh, breathes Damian, his eyes seeking mine. I'm sorry, I didn't realize that I had made you so concerned, he said thoughtfully. To be honest, I've been lost in my thoughts for the last few days. Really, I say, skeptical. Surely, he wouldn't lie to me though, would he? But what kind of thoughts are so pressing that you fail to communicate with those around you? It didn't make sense. Really, he repeats. I've just been trying to come to terms with everything. I wonder what he means by everything. Apparently it's not just about Winter then. I fold my arms and patiently wait. Damian blushes, how adorable, his cheeks bright red, as he bites his lip and looks away. Explain, I say softly, and he begins to fidget with his hands, looking down at the bedspread. His ears are red as well. That's interesting. The thing is, I'm trying to come to terms with this mate bond thing, he says softly as I flinch. Was he saying that he didn't like the fact that the both of us were mates? Is it that you don't want to be mates? I ask and he shakes his head. Thank God for that. I just needed to accept that my mate was a male and I can't stop thinking about the ex we had. How different it was and how well he pauses and looks at me shyly, how great it felt. I can understand that. I'd found the ex to be mind-blowing as well. I'd known instinctively what to do and my wolf had grumbled because I wouldn't let him take control. Then what's the problem? I ask delicately, reaching over and taking hold of Damian's hand, so that he stops his damn fidgeting. The problem is I don't know how you feel about me, he breathes. Oh Damian. The poor kid was at a loss and looking around him, anything to avoid looking directly at me. Do you really want to know? I ask quietly. He gives me a nod. I adore you, I tell him firmly. I love waking up to you each morning and snuggling against you at night. I hate when you're not with me and I have this overwhelming desire to protect you. You're always in my thoughts. When you smile, I smile. When you're sad, I'm sad, I say with an exhale. I honestly can't even remember what my life was like before I met you. All I know is that I don't feel lonely or miserable by myself anymore. He looks stunned. Crap. Maybe I had told him too much information. I feel vulnerable, exposed and very much am hoping I haven't scared him away. I feel the same way, he whispers as I look at him in shock. I want to be with you, Langdon. I don't want to be with anyone else, he says with a hitch in his voice. I watch mystified as he stands up and then sits himself on my legs, facing me, his hands wrapping around my hair, his face inches from my own. It's the first time Damian's initiated contact and my heart is almost swelling with joy at that fact, my wolf prancing around happily in my head. You're the only one that I want, he breathes and then he leans forward, pressing his soft lips to mine as I gasp. He's gentle, a little unsure, his lips moving, his tongue diving into my mouth and caressing it. I moan, the boy is turning me on, I can't get enough of him. The softness of his lips, the delicateness. He tastes so mind-numbingly good that time seems to stop still and there's just the two of us, making out on the bed. When we pull back, both of our eyes are dark, our wolves coming to the surface for a moment. I close my eyes trying to regain control, something that is made extremely difficult by Damian's bottom sitting on my lap and wriggling around. He was going to kill me with this torture. My hands were itching to touch him. But I hold back, because there's an idea brewing in my mind, something that I want to ask my mate and I needed him to hear what I have to say, even if we both are itching to ravish each other on the bed. I want to prove how much I want you, I tell Damian, grabbing his face between my hands and staring deeply into his beautiful eyes. He looks confused. I almost want to smile, but this is serious. How? He manages to mutter, once he's got his breath back. Let me mark you, I growl and his mouth falls open in shock. Let me claim you as mine so that everybody can see it. Have I gone too far? Was this too much, too soon for Damian? I'm starting to doubt myself as his eyes slide away from my own and his body tenses on my legs. I open my mouth to say that we don't have to, when he speaks first. Yes. Have I heard him correctly? Did he just say yes to me? Yes. I clarify. Yes, he growls back, and I get to mark you as well. Fine by me, I hiss, but I get to do you first. I stand up, holding him firmly and lay him down on the bed. He looks apprehensive now, but I give him a reassuring smile. I climb over him and lean down, pressing my lips to his mouth, rougher than he had been, demanding access and plundering the inside of his mouth with my tongue. He moans and it makes my entire body jolt. That sounds hot. I can feel the sparks between us, as I push harder against his lips. My hands caress his chest underneath his shirt and he begins to pant as I touch him. Slowly I pull back, trailing kisses down his neck until I stop at the nape, his neck exposed, bare and so smooth. Reluctantly, I let my canines pop out and as he lays there, my hands still touching him, I bite into his neck, hearing him cry out as I do. I pull my head back and then lick the wound, sealing it closed, looking over at the mark of a wolf in satisfaction. He's mine now. The mark is there for everybody to see. No one will dare try and touch him now. Not unless they want their heads ripped off their body. Damian surprises me by gripping me by the waist and laying me down beside him. He climbs over and begins to kiss me, fervently, his hard-on rubbing against my leg. I moan, his hands touching me hesitantly underneath my shirt, as he begins to mimic what I did to him. I grip him around the waist, my eyes closed as he slowly breaks off the kiss and begins to kiss the nape of my neck. My breathing becomes heavy as he tilts my head to the side, giving him better access to the nape of my neck. I feel a sharp piercing pain as he bites into my flesh, and then the coarseness of his tongue as he seals the wound closed. Now I had my own personal mark from him. I too, have been claimed by my mate. Sorry, he says timidly, sitting up. I didn't mean to hurt you. You didn't, I growl, so don't apologize. God, he's sitting atop of me and looking so cute. The fact we've just marked each other makes tonight even more special. I wonder how Winter will react and then remember the amnesia. It's a shame, she was so excited to find out that her brother and I were mates. She would have loved to find out we had marked each other. Maybe when she gets her memories back she'll be excited. Damian's making a move to get off me and my hand shoots out, preventing him from moving. He's rubbing slightly against me and my eyes narrow as I smell his arousal. I smile, gently rubbing him as his breathing deepens. He's so responsive. Within seconds I have him flat on his back, blinking in shock. I begin to pull the zipper down on his pants. He clutches the bed sheets between his fists. I haven't even touched him yet and he looks like he's about to blow. This was going to be a lot of fun, I thought with a smirk. I think tonight calls for a celebration, don't you? I say gruffly. His eyes widen. Celebration, he squeaks. What kind of celebration? I started gently. This kind of celebration. Jonathan POV. It's good to be back home. It only took one hell of a car drive, a plane ride and the rental of a car to get back as soon as possible, and I stare at my pack house with satisfaction in my eyes. I've been gone for so long, but now I can focus on my pack and my duties. I feel older somehow, more responsible. I feel a pang in my chest, remembering my goodbye to Winter. She doesn't even know who I am, let alone is going to be worried about my leaving. I guess I can take comfort in the fact that she's all right and that, in the end, we were able to save her from Thomas. I pull up in front of my pack house, and take a moment to look at it with new eyes. It might not be as big as Alpha Kai's, but it's a beautiful wooden-style cabin with 2 stories and modern amenities. It was nothing to be ashamed of. Neither was the pack, even if it wasn't the largest in the country. I was going to change all that. I was going to make my pack one of the strongest in the world. I had big plans. I get out of the car and shut the door, my feet pounding into the gravel of the driveway as I walk to the front door and let myself inside. I barely make it into the foyer, before there's a whooshing sound and my mother comes racing in and literally throws herself into my arms. I can feel tears trickling down her face onto my shirt, and feel immensely guilty. Even though she knew where I was heading, even I hadn't fathomed it would be as long as it had. I was a terrible son, I thought to myself, to make her so worried about me. You were gone for so long, she sobbed as my arms awkwardly went around her. I didn't know if you were coming back. I patted her lightly on her back. Mother, I was always going to come back, I remind her gently, frowning at the wild look in her eyes. I am sorry it took so long for me to come back though, I finish up. She continues to cry as I hold her. I don't dare move, even though my shirt is slowly getting drenched by her tears. Mother, I say quietly, I'm really sorry. She pulls back, sniffling, wiping the tears from her eyes with the back of her hand. It's just that I didn't hear from you and Mason has been stepping in for you as the beta, but even he was getting concerned and... She trailed off helplessly. Mason is perfectly capable of taking care of pack business, I assure her. That's why I left him in charge. You shouldn't have needed to concern yourself with any pack business while I was gone. I motion for her to follow me, heading to the trusted study where all the paperwork and boring stuff gets taken care of. Somehow I'm not surprised to find Mason sitting behind the desk, furiously scribbling away. He'd always been pedantic about making sure all of the work was done. Mason leaps up as soon as he sees me. Alpha Jonathan, he says formally, bending his head respectfully. It is a pleasure to see you again. I wave my hand at him. I don't care much for the title anymore. It leaves a sour taste in my mouth, although I can't say why that is. Just call me Jonathan from now on, I say firmly. He nods, looking speechless. He moves out from behind the desk and I sit in the large chair, motioning for my mother to sit down, Mason sitting in the other chair, one of his legs folded over the other. Did the warriors keep up with training while I was gone? I ask, turning to Mason. They kept to the rigorous schedule. We will have to find a new head warrior though, and soon. I'm puzzled. What happened to Nick? He found his mate and is moving to her pack to live with her, answers Mason smoothly. Imagine that. Who's been taking care of the training in his absence then? I ask suspiciously. Man, I've only been home a few minutes and already I've gone into alpha mode. I have, between all the other duties, Mason answers. I stare at him in shock. The poor man must be exhausted going from one thing to the other. Clearly he hasn't delegated any of the work, he was that pedantic he would rather do it himself and burn himself out doing it. Mason, I say very calmly and very quietly, that is going to end. You must have some idea of who's the best warrior by now. Ask them if they'll become head warrior. I want it done by the end of tomorrow. If they won't do it, then go to the next best and so on. However, I have no doubts that the first one will agree, considering its many benefits and perks. Mason looks upset and a bit sulky. Maybe he doesn't like the fact that I've come back and he's back to being the beta again. Too bad. He can deal with it. I'll arrange it by the end of tomorrow, he assures me, and I give a small nod. You've changed, my mother breathes, staring at me, her tears long gone. It's like you've become more mature somehow. You seem to be more responsible, she adds, putting her hands to her face and looking at me in astonishment. It's unnerving. Mother, are there any maintenance issues in the house or gardens that you would like taken care of? I ask in the hopes of distracting her. It works. She moves her head and thinks about it. Well, there's a loose step in the staircase, she murmurs, which could be dangerous. Other than that, I really can't think of anything else. Consider it fixed, I tell her, watching as Mason scribbles it down. I have no doubt it will be fixed by the end of tomorrow as well, if Mason has anything to say about it. What about rogue attacks while I was gone? I ask, leaning back in the chair. Mason looks concerned. We had one rogue attack while you were gone, but it was easily handled. Were they killed? I ask, or thrown in the dungeon? Now he looks nervous. We killed them. Should we have taken one prisoner? He asks, puzzled. I shake my head. No, but if you had taken a prisoner, then I would have wanted to know, I explain. You did well in handling the rogue attack. Were there very many? About 5, Mason answers. Luckily patrols spotted them straight away. The other good thing is that we had men injured, but there were no fatalities. None of our people received life-threatening injuries. God, I'm tired. The plane ride, although not long, has really taken it out of me. Or maybe it's the last few weeks spent stressing over finding Winter and then saving her from that hybrid Thomas. That's probably it. It was a far better way to travel than by wolf or foot, though. If I have my way, I'll only ever be traveling by car from now on. Did you find the girl? My mother asks unexpectedly. She leans forward and looks at me eagerly. Yes, we found Winter. Just in time too, I explain. Her brother is staying there. He found his mate at the same pack. My mother claps her hands together. How sweet, she gushes, but no girl caught your eye there. I shake my head. No, the only girl who had caught my eye was Winter, and due to my own stupidity, I had well and truly lost her. I had no one to blame but myself. If I could turn back time, I would do things differently, but she was with Kai now, and she was happy, and that at least was something to hold on to. Who knows if she would have found that happiness with me? The only girl that I am happy to see is you, mother, I tease as she laughs and shakes her head at me. We have to have a celebratory dinner, mother says with a grin. I almost laugh. I had anticipated that's what she'd do. She always loved to cook when she had the chance, and this had given her the perfect opportunity. What do you want? I'll make anything you'd like, she offers. Anything you feel like making, I say honestly. A homemade meal is great, it's been a while since I've eaten one. She looks stricken. My poor little man, she croons, and I cringe. My God, how embarrassing. I'll have to fatten you up with some decent food. I'm going to go and start cooking right now, she cries and sails out of the room, almost skipping in her happiness. I dissolve into laughter, Mason's shoulders shaking in his chair. I don't know why you're laughing, I tease him. You know you're expected to attend dinner as well. It's just, he chokes out, she called you little man. He bursts into laughter. I scowl at him. Don't forget I'm your alpha, I growl warningly, but he just continues to laugh, tears forming in his eyes. All right, he finally says, leaning against his chair and holding his hands up in surrender. I'll stop. How is the pack running? Tell me the truth now, Mother's not here, I order. He looks perturbed. The pack is running fine, smoothly. Except for the head warrior position needing to be filled and that rogue attack, everything else has been smooth sailing. I relax. The pack had been in good hands while I was gone. Mason had done an excellent job of keeping things running. I take note of the fact he has dark circles under his eyes. When was the last time that he had a decent sleep? I really need to organize a gamma as well to help lighten the load. Mason, I say gently, I think we need to look at filling the title of gamma as well. It's too much work between the two of us and you've had to shoulder the burden the entire time I've been gone. I swear his face brightens up. Clearly he thinks this is an excellent idea. That would be fantastic. It would be far easier if we had a gamma to help delegate some of the work to. Any ideas on who the gamma should be? I feel like it should be a decision made between us, rather than just myself deciding. That seems to shock him. What about Jordan? He's also the best warrior and could fill both positions? Training could be a part of the gamma's duties, he suggests. It's brilliant. It's like killing two jobs with one stone. I think that your idea is brilliant, I say honestly. Let's have a discussion with him in the morning. It's best to get it done quickly. He nods and I smile. Everything is going well. I'm about to stand up and go to the kitchen, where Mother is no doubt cooking furiously, when something comes to mind and I sit back down hastily. How is the prisoner doing? I ask him. Mason looks blank for a moment. The prisoner, I want to yell at him. You know, the only one that's been there in the dungeon for the last couple of months. That prisoner. The one I swore to Damian that was never going to cause trouble again. Come on, Mason, I think impatiently. Then he looks at me and bites his lip. Now I'm feeling suspicious. What isn't he telling me? Why is he being so quiet? About that prisoner, Mason says in a hushed voice. The thing is, he stammers. Spit it out, Mason, I growl, watching him wriggle in the chair, clearly nervous. There was an incident and he managed to escape, he bursts out. He looks away nervously. For a minute, there's just silence as I digest his words, not fully comprehending them. Then realization dawns. I stand up, towering over him as he cringes back in the chair. My eyes are narrowed and staring directly at him. How does one, I say dangerously quiet, one measly little prisoner manage to escape the dungeon? See, the thing is, there was an Omega and they got too close and... He trails helplessly. I can't believe it. They let the prisoner escape. One that I was intending to keep locked up for the rest of his miserable life. My hands clench into fists. How does he get away from a whole pack, Mason? Did no one track him down? He escaped just before the rogue attack, Mason explains miserably. By the time we ended the fight, he was well and truly gone. I didn't see the point in wasting the tracker's time. I give a loud huff and punch the wall, giving vent to the anger coursing through my body. Get out, I say between gritted teeth before I lose control completely. He's out the door in a flash. I breathe, counting to 10, trying to keep my wolf from taking over, willing my body to relax. My whole body is tense, my muscles stiff, I'm breathing heavy and I'm so angry. All I feel is pure rage right now. Finally I sit back down in the chair and cover my face with my hands. How am I going to tell Damian and Kai that Winter's father has escaped his prison cell and it was all my fault? Join our Facebook and WhatsApp group for more updates, link is given in description. Rest audiobook will be continued in next episode.